Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to you both. Thank you so much for your submission and appearing before the committee. Now, you note in your submission the difficulty of proving criminal wage theft in sectors where underpayment arises through diffuse and institutionalised practices rather than clearly identifiable and deliberate acts. Now, through things like marking assignments and preparing material, the idea that higher education workers are often required to extensive unpaid work has become normalised. Do higher education workers have any say in this, or is the decision for workers as simple as do the unpaid labour or get the sack?
I think across universities, most universities in the country have a set number of hours that they will allow any casual academic to work, which is generally 1 hour per student per semester over a 12-week semester in most instances. And that involves all of the administration, the marking of assignments. There have been reports that means for many academics, they're allocated about 10 minutes to mark a higher education assignment, which they feel obviously is not sufficient to provide detailed feedback and the sort of supports that students need. There is definitely fear about speaking out against that, because unless you're producing high quality work, somebody else will come along and take the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just on promotion policies, I had a quick look at the paper Dr. Smithers and Professor Heffernan put out on promotion policies. It notes that some promotion policies were hidden behind a firewall and that you were unable to obtain policies for University of Western Australia and Murdoch University. Now, being a senator for WA, I'd be interested to learn about promotion policies at WA's universities like UWA, Curtin and Murdoch. So firstly, I'm curious to understand, were UWA or Murdoch's policies behind a firewall, or were they just not published at all?
Thank you for the question. They would be published behind a firewall of that university. We did note when we were doing the data collection for it that it did seem interesting that most of the Western Australia ones were behind a firewall. That data collection was in 2024, and so that was a little while ago for me now. But from my memory, I have a feeling that there was something to do with it being a state-based enterprise agreement, or something to do with Western Australia specifically having its own set of requirements around that. But again, I'm really sorry, it was 2024. Mm-hmm. So I could look into that for you and let you know. But yes, they were definitely behind a firewall.
Yep, no, absolutely. I'm just really curious to understand what information about promotion policies you can provide to the committee of WA University. So you can definitely take that on notice. Now, do you have any information on what experiences higher education workers have had when going to Fair Work about things like promotion policies and the culture of unpaid labour?
We've heard a whole range of experiences. Mostly the experiences that we have heard, though, are people who are too reticent to speak out. So we have participants in our data who have worked through cancer treatments, who have continued working through major life upheavals, and not wanting to disclose any challenges that they're facing due to the potential for them to lose work.
And what do you hope that an inquiry into wage theft, what outcome would you be hoping that this inquiry would have?
Thank you. I think we would really value some more inquiry into the systematic structures that have grown through the university sector, the high levels of casualisation within the sector, which were reaching up to 70% of the workforce before the Closing the Loopholes Act. We haven't got very clear understanding because universities report on full-time equivalency rather than individuals, and the research shows that a full-time equivalent position could represent up to 12 to 16 different workers. So those issues are quite widespread, and the review of these promotion policies that require academics to be working at the level above their paid, their current paid level of employment for 2 years before they are eligible for promotion.
Yeah, no, definitely hear you on that. Now, you've made a point that the offence is relatively new, the criminal wage theft offence. Do you believe that the existence of this offence will be of any use to workers in higher education in the medium to long term?
We aren't confident that it will be. As you noted in our submission, we do think that there is a way of operating in higher education that means that intentionality would be quite hard to prove, particularly as there are layers and layers of administration that do end up obscuring what is actually occurring. And I think it would be hard to pinpoint in one way or another somebody's intent to underpay their staff. Beyond the promotion policies are probably a really explicit example of that, as it is written into policy that these are the requirements of academics to be promoted. But for casual staff, a lot of this happens in conversations and in ways that aren't documented. Even if a university does have payroll systems that account for overtime, these are often, there are practices that mean that these aren't used in the way they could be. And even in our data from our most recent survey, we have examples of managers changing workload systems to make it look as if staff are working less, and people being required to work more than the hours in the enterprise bargaining agreements for teaching and things like that, but it's being obscured by people doctoring the systems or even relying on staff doing things for free outside of hours. And it's a kind of coercive control in a way that there's no one person putting the requirement out there that you work for free, but it's still occurring.
Thank you so much for the evidence you've provided so far. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.